Hello and welcome to a quick webinar on accessible online learning. We are going to be taking a look at some of the basic considerations for making online learning accessible, and we are looking at this within the context of universal design for learning. First, we will review the most fundamental concepts of UDL and then spend the rest of the time looking more specifically at accessibility online. Universal Design for Learning is a framework to improve and optimize teaching and learning for all people based on scientific insights into how humans learn. A quick note, the term universal design, without the learning part, is a term that predates universal design for learning and refers to the design of our environment so that it is accessible to all. If we understand this concept, it's a little easier to get the concept of universal design for learning. Universal design features in our environment that we are all familiar with are things like curb cutouts in a sidewalk or door handles that are levers. These features make things accessible to people who have various physical disabilities, but they also make things more accessible for everyone. When your hands are full, you can still get through a door with a lever knob, or you can push a baby stroller onto a sidewalk easily. So, universal design for learning applies the concept of accessibility to learning, both in terms of being able to physically interact with the educational environment, but also in terms of providing greater cognitive access by thinking about the varied and multiple ways that humans learn. UDL is about removing barriers to learning. Three key features of universal design for learning are that accessibility should be thought of during the planning stages so that the access features fit into the overall design of the lesson rather than being retrofitted later. UDL is not a general education or special education initiative. It applies to all learners. And UDL does not lower expectations or modify curriculum. Curriculum maintains its rigor. It is just presented in varied and accessible ways. The UDL framework consists of three learning networks. The why of learning, which is about how we engage our learners. The what of learning, which is about how we represent information. And the how of learning, which is about how we express our learning. This is a link to the UDL Guidelines on CAST, and I want you to be aware of this resource. It's a great place to come back to. The main homepage is cast.org, and you'll need to dig in to find the UDL section. Scroll down, and the framework is here. It's interactive so that you can dive into each checkpoint and get more detailed information along with some practical ideas. So that's a great resource. While UDL lowers barriers for many, it is not meant to replace specially designed instruction or necessary accommodations. Some learners will require the use of specialized technology in order to perceive and interact with other technology, such as screen reading software. And UDL can be implemented well using no technology at all. However, today we are focusing on accessible online learning. I'd like to make you aware that web content is included in the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. The rules for governing accessibility online are called Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.0. These guidelines state that web content must be perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. What does this really mean? Basically, that things online must be formatted in ways that are accessible. In our current situation, providing as much built-in accessibility as we can will help our students out tremendously. We probably aren't going to be able to do everything perfectly, but we can try our best. If you make things as accessible as you can, you will be reducing barriers for learning. Think about your individual students and try to meet their unique needs. Accessible technology benefits those who experience blindness or low vision, learning disabilities, hearing impairment or deafness, and many others. There are many things to consider when looking at what makes something online accessible, and this is by no means a comprehensive list. One of the main things to look at is text and how usable it is. Are there built-in reading functions? Can the user select text with their mouse and then use text reader software? Is translation available? Can students interact with the text, like zooming in or changing color, contrast, or text formatting? And is there a printable version? When looking at multimedia content, we want to look at finding video content that's paired with text resources and videos that have captioning, pre-recorded audio paired with text resources, and looking for video and audio content available in multiple languages. There are many other things to be considered, especially if you are developing your own documents. Some of those things would be providing links to additional information for background knowledge, adding visuals wherever it's possible, adding alt text to those visuals and videos, which I'll show you how to do in a minute, naming hyperlinks, and keeping your design clean and clutter-free, which really helps with the specialized softwares that others might be using to access your content. Keep in mind that PDF documents were designed not to be accessible. With software today, they're more accessible than they used to be, but that often involves many extra steps. So if possible, create things in accessible formats like Word or Google Docs. And if you use Google Classroom, you can place those docs into the classroom with the requirement that each student make their own copy. This way yours stays intact and students can manipulate theirs as needed. Let's take a look at an example that I threw together in order to demonstrate some accessibility features. First of all, I tried to keep a really basic design so that people using text reader programs can interact with it more easily. Second, I used titles and headings at each of my sections, and those are found right up here. And when you select this as the style of your text, it creates a link right over here in the left-hand column, an automatic outline. And this is a searchable outline, so you can jump to the sections of your document and you can hide it or view it. So that's a nice feature to incorporate for helping students navigate the documents and stay organized. A quick word about the extension that I'm using today. It is not my purpose to be promoting any particular product today. This happens just to be an extension that I have available. There are several others that do similar things. So this extension is called Read and Write for Google. And when you add an extension from the Chrome Web Store, it places an icon up here. I have a lot of them, and they usually toggle on and off. This one places a second toolbar at the top of your Google Doc. This is the premium version of the Read and Write for Google extension. Teachers can sign up for the premium extension for free, and students can add a free version of the extension, which allows them access for 30 days, and then they are able to keep the reading tools. Because this is in document format, I can easily interact with the text. One feature I want to show you is a text reader. So I'm going to place my cursor where I would like it to start and click play.
We will be learning about owls.
Okay. Also, because this is a document, if the student needed to enlarge their text or reformat it for any reason, they would have the ability to do that. This extension also has a voice note feature. I added a voice note of myself reading the instructions, which might be a nice thing to include since we're in this world of distance learning now. It might be a nice connection for your students to hear yourself reading the directions. We will be learning about owls. Students, of course, can type in answers. They can also use the built-in voice typing that is part of Google Docs. This is not an extension, it's always part of Google Docs. You just go up to Tools and down to Voice Typing. toggle it on, hummingbird. And I have found this tool to be really accurate, so if you haven't played around with it, give it a try. For vocabulary words, I paired text definitions, which a student could listen to with the text reader, along with a symbol for that word. And I said I would show you how to apply alt text. So when you have an image, you're going to select the image, right-click on that image, find the alt text, and a window pops up. You can type in a really descriptive or a very basic word to describe that symbol. And then I've given the students a space here to kind of think a little bit more about the vocabulary and supply an answer. I have included a couple of links to some articles here that I got through the Oregon School Library Information System, otherwise known as OSLIS. If you don't know about OSLIS, you should learn about it. There's several different sections in here. I'm in Kids Info Bits, and they have done a great job of making everything accessible. There's built-in reading functions.
Owls. There are about 200 different types of owls. Copyright Cav Sedford/Allen.
So you can see that it highlights the text, which is really nice. I want to show you really quick how you can insert a hyperlink for something like this into your Google Doc and name it, just in case you're not aware. You grab the address up here from the URL window. You're going to make a copy of that. Go back to your document, and I'm going to show you really quick what happens if you don't insert it properly, really, is that's what you're going to get, which is not very accessible or user-friendly for anybody. What you want to do instead is just come up to Insert Hyperlink and paste your link in that window and give it a quick, simple name. Also, when embedding or using videos, you want to look for videos that have closed captioning or some type of captioning. I found this also through OSLIS. Usually you're going to find the function for closed captioning down at the bottom of the video, and you can turn it on and turn it off. So that is something that you definitely want to include when you're looking for videos. Make preference of videos that have captioning. Really, so much more can be done in terms of accessibility online. I have barely begun to scratch the surface, but I hope that I have gotten you interested in thinking about things that you can do to make your lessons and your distance learning more accessible for your students. Let's jump back over to my presentation really quick. I have included a lot of links here for further learning, and after just telling you that you don't want to paste long, ugly URLs, I did that here simply because I realize that you're probably watching this in a video format and can't click on my nice looking links, so hopefully you'll be able to pause and get those if you need them. If you are only going to visit one resource for further learning, I would make that cast.org, C-A-S-T.org, and from there you can learn all about UDL, remote learning resources, and free learning tools. There are 2 more pages of resources. And as promised, at the very end, the name of a couple of things that I mentioned in case you want to look those up. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope that you will continue to explore this topic.